Hello, I'm Jyotika. Welcome to Excelling Psychology. In today's class, we'll be looking at how to solve paper 3-2, October-November 2024 for section B, Consumer Psychology. I've already covered one video on how to answer section A, Clinical Psychology. Unlike some of my previous videos in which I go into the details of how to answer various types of questions for the paper, in this video my focus is only on the questions that have come in this paper. So I will be discussing how to answer these particular questions. You can see on the screen there are model answers also. You can pause the video at any time, you can take screenshots to go over the answers. I will not be able to read out all of them and that will unnecessarily elongate the video. So I will just be referring to them to illustrate the points that I'm making. Before I begin, I just want you to know, because I get many messages inquiring about this. Yes, I am a private tutor for psychology. If you're looking to schedule your classes with me, my personal contact is available in the description box and pinned comment below. I'm a school teacher, private tutor, and subject expert for CAIE A-level psychology since more than 10 years. So you can contact me for the same. Okay, so now let's begin with the questions that had come in this paper. Whenever you see any question for consumer psychology, read it very carefully and identify which topic it is being asked from before writing any answer. So here they are telling us a restaurant has a noisy kitchen which can be heard by customers. Suggest how the noise from the kitchen may affect perception of food by the customers. This is coming from the topic of sound and consumer behavior, which is within the physical environment chapter. So, first identify the topic and then bring to mind what all was given under that topic. What did you learn under it? Consumer psychology is full of studies because consumer psychology as a field is completely research derived. So, in the consumer psychology section, we have one study after the other. Do bring the study also to mind. It is not compulsory to write the answer from a given study, but many times it does become useful to draw some points from a study and phrase the answer according to that. So, if we think about this one, sound and consumer behavior, we know the relevant study is Woods et al., which comes immediately after the key study North et al. So, just bring to mind the Woods et al. Study also. Now that you have the topic, the explanation, and the study in your mind, now think about what points you can apply here. If the kitchen is noisy, according to what you have learnt in that section, what all possible effects of noise are there when it comes to consumers eating their food? If you go by the Woods et al. Study strictly, like if you intend to link that to the question given, then the points that will come to your mind are if there is white noise, in that case, flavor will be less tasteful or less prominent to the customers in this restaurant, because in Woods et al. It was shown that when participants were wearing those headphones and they could hear white noise, both sweetness and saltiness were perceived to be less enhanced by them. So you could take findings like that. Also, you could talk about the crispiness of food and the, I forgot what that is called, the moistness of the food as tested again in Woods et al. So food, sorry, not moistness, crispy foods versus soft foods. How noise can impact that. They had found that taste as such does not get mediated by the crispiness or the softness, that is the texture of the food. That is what they had found. So you could make a point around that also. So if you intend to take Woods et al., first bring all these points to mind and then start applying to this situation. Alternatively, what is given before Woods et al.? They have described in general how noise affects taste through various studies. You don't need to name any of those studies here, but the findings which were there of those studies you can bring to mind. Like one of those studies had shown that when there is a lot of noise, people are not able to overcome that noise to notice the noise being made by the food itself, the noise inherent in the texture of the food. So, for example, if they're eating something crispy or crunchy, they don't get that crunch sound as a feedback from the food, which makes the experience less enjoyable. And there was this other study in which pretzels were given to participants. Pretzels are moist by nature, but when there was noise, especially static or white noise, Then people felt that the pretzel seemed dry, as if the moistness had been taken away from the pretzels. A few more things before we look at a sample answer, what you need to keep in mind while answering. I know there is a lot of neuropsychology part also in that topic as to why exactly noise would influence taste, like cross sensory modality. In the brain, there might be overlapping centers for olfaction and for gustation. That all is not very relevant here. So make sure when you bring things to mind, then you filter them out as to what would be relevant in this situation. It's not like anything that comes to mind can be applied here. So here they're talking specifically about perception of food, how that would get influenced. If in case you start discussing how the brain is not able to distinguish much between olfactory and gustatory cues, or there is an overlap between perception. That does not talk about how food or taste perception is getting influenced. It's talking rather about what is happening in the brain of customers. So, shift of focus from what they are asking, which is not desirable. So, make sure whatever you bring to mind is relevant. Secondly, do not confuse the music section with the sound section. Like some of these things might seem obvious to you, but there have been mistakes of this sort in the paper where students have quoted the not at all study. And in that, how background music, classical music in particular, made people spend more on certain types of dishes. They've tried to link that to this given situation. Noise is not the same as music. In noise, they're talking about sound, not music. So make sure you don't confuse between the topics. That's why prepare well. When you're preparing, only know which topic exclusively is being dealt with in which study, and do not confuse studies from different topics. Finally, as I always say, when it comes to these type of questions, these are EO2 questions, application questions. So you are not to generally just list out, oh, this is what was found in Woods et al., or this is what is found in studies in general. If they wanted to know that, they would have asked you a straightforward question. What were the findings of Woods et al., or what were the findings of various studies on noise and perception of food? That is not how they have phrased the question. They have given you a situation. I know the situation is very brief and it is devoid of any characters. So it's not an elaborate stem that they have given you. Nevertheless, they have given you a stem, however brief it might be. So you do have to apply your knowledge to it. When you are answering, you must refer to the kitchen, you must refer to the restaurant, you must refer to the customers. And you must not write as if you're answering an AO1 question and just keep on describing what happened in this study and that study. Link whatever the findings of the study or studies were to the given situation. So here, for example, you can see one point I've taken about what I had mentioned just a few minutes earlier, that if crunchy food is being eaten by customers, that might seem less fresh to them because the crunch sound would not come to them as feedback, and they might experience a feeling that the food is stale somehow. So that is one finding that I have linked here. And the second one is from the pretzel study that I mentioned earlier, that food might seem less moist. The answer is worth 4 marks, so I will strongly recommend you give 2 points. You can give 1 point also and elaborate a lot on it to justify 4 marks, but that does not seem very feasible. Like supposing I take the first one, crispiness is less enhanced. How much can I elaborate on it in such a limited stem to justify 4 marks and give 4 unique points? Very challenging. So rather I would say take 2 points like I have taken, and just justify each for 2 marks. In the sense, name the point. So this is what one study has found, and then link it to this restaurant situation. One question that is frequently asked to me, in the situation they haven't mentioned that customers are eating moist food or customers are eating crunchy food. So can we bring in those elements? Of course you can, because in a restaurant, if you imagine, there will be all sorts of food available. So there'll be some moist food, some crunchy food. So why could you not imagine that happening in a restaurant? They have left it broad. They haven't told us exactly what are the customers eating over there. So then it is Up to us as long as what we are giving is relevant. It is possible that in restaurants people would be eating these type of foods. It's perfectly acceptable to give these points. So you can add some hypothetical points, like if they're eating this, if they're eating that, as long as that is what really happens in a restaurant. Okay, also one more question that comes is, can we give say one finding from Woods et al. And one in general? Of course, there are no hard and fast rules. You want to give both points from Woods et al. You want to give one from Woods et al., one general, both general. It's up to you what combination of points you want to use. So that was about the first question. The second question was a more direct type, like AO1 and AO3 questions. Let's read the question first. Research conducted has shown the effect of product placement in films on choice for both adults and children. Explain one explanation for why product placement in films affects choice. So again, bringing to mind which are the topics, which are what is the material covered under product placement topic and which study is from there. So definitely the Otti and Lewis study comes under product placement, where they tested how product placement could influence young children. Now, when it comes to why product placement works, again, as I told you in the previous answer, in consumer, it's always like that. You can give something specific from a study, or you could give in general. As far as the general points were concerned, under product placement, reminder effect is one reason that it could work. Just before purchasing a product, if people are reminded of a product that they have seen earlier also because it's placed in a film, then they become more likely to buy that product. Another explanation is mere exposure. This is a Zajong explanation that just because people see products repeatedly in films, they might find them more familiar, and what is familiar is found to be more attractive. So they would be more likely to buy it. So you can give any one of these explanations. Just as I have explain them right now. First naming, for example, reminder effect, then explaining what it is, like why it works. See, again, the focus is how it affects choice. So don't give something irrelevant, or don't forget to link to choice. Like many students will just say this is reminder effect, but they will not conclude off by saying then a person becomes more likely to buy that product that he's reminded of. So make sure you link it to how it is affecting choice ultimately. Alternatively, you could give the mere exposure. Name mere exposure, explain it. I have chosen to give something specifically from Otti and Lewis. In Otti and Lewis, if you look at the conclusion of the study, it is clearly mentioned that it was implicit memory of children that was affected, and that is why they ended up choosing the product, the Pepsi, which was there in the film over Coca Cola. And why they gave this explanation is because later on they did not ask children directly which one they would have chosen if they had two soft drinks in front of them. Rather, they took a behavioral test. They directly offered them Pepsi and Coca Cola, and they found that the children who had seen Pepsi, the Home Alone clip, they tended to choose Pepsi. Means implicitly or subtly it was there in their memory, even though they were not able to express directly many times what they had seen in the film in an interview. So that is what I have explained here. The structure is the same. I've named the point first, implicit memory, and then I've explained it with the help of Otti and Lewis. Now there is a part B in this also, which is not directly related to part A, but it is still from the topic of product placement. Why it is important to follow ethical guidelines when using children in psychological research. Whenever I teach in my classes, I keep highlighting the fact that child-based studies which are there, very likely they'll ask a question on use of children, and that is exactly what happened this year. So the Otti and Lewis study, and later we have the Fisher et al. Brand recognition studies. These are involving children. So very likely questions will come from them about the issue of use of children. And again, as always, the use of children could be asked in terms of ethical issues, methodological issues, or application. In this case, they have asked it for ethical guidelines. Here, again, though not compulsory, you could talk in hypothetical terms. I very strongly recommend you take an example from Otti and Lewis. Make use of the knowledge that you're learning in the syllabus. Like if you're learning studies, do quote them when you're writing your answers, because otherwise what's the point of learning them? And it's though they're not naming the study, it's so obvious that it has to be related to Otti and Lewis. They won't cut your marks even if you say if a study was to be done and this would be an ethical issue. But students tend to phrase it very poorly. Like when they write in these if then terms, they don't justify particularly why use of children only is becoming an ethical problem, and they lose marks. So rather, if you would take Otti and Lewis, you would be able to show clearly why use of children only was an issue in this particular study, because definitely you'll include some wording from the study at least. So there, unless you're a very good writer, you're going to be more justified giving Otti and Lewis, because giving a general answer, you're very likely to miss out on making it relevant to use of young children. So let's see one sample answer. With that, I will explain to you what I mean by this. In Otti and Lewis, we know children were very young. So hypothetically also, if I were to write, I would say children typically are very young who are involved in such studies. So why not say from Otti and Lewis directly that these children were only between 6 to 12 years of age. Even if you don't remember the exact age group, it's fine. You could just say in Otti and Lewis, they're very young children. Or if you could say something like they were from elementary and just beginning with middle school, something like that. So, of course, parental consent would be important. And why in a study like Otti and Lewis? Because when children are going to be exposed to product placement, it's kind of like manipulating them into making choices of those products. And definitely, it could have a long term effect also. They could be manipulated into developing a permanent preference for that product. So, children are too young to decide whether that sort of exposure is good for them or not. But parents are in a position to decide. So, definitely, parental consent is very important. One thing, whenever it comes to these ethics type of questions, students are always very confused about, do we have to give an ethical guideline that has been definitely broken in the study? That's not what they are telling you. They're just telling you to give any ethical issue that is relevant, even if it was followed. So we are pretty sure, though it's not mentioned in the report of the study, that Otti and Lewis did take permission from the parents for doing the study. Regardless why it was important, we are showing that. We are not saying that they did not take parental consent. So, as I always say, write in hypothetical terms. Write that it should have been there. So, don't make a comment on it was there or not. They are not testing your knowledge of whether it was there or not. They want to test your knowledge of, do you know why it was important for such a study? So, you write in those terms only. Let's come to the next question. Again, a situation type like the first one. Malika is the marketing manager of a company that sells flowers. Most of the company's customers are over 50 years. Malika wants to market the flowers to younger customers. Suggest two ways that Malika could use Lottobon's 4C's marketing mix model to attract younger customers. Now don't get annoyed, but I will say one thing. Make sure that you give the points from Lottobon. You will feel that this is something extremely obvious. I can't tell you how many students believe that, oh, I didn't study consumer properly. Let me give any point over here. Let me make up any point. Please don't do that. Make sure the points that you're giving are from Lottobon's 4C's marketing model. I don't have much to add to, how to structure this answer. It's very similar to the first one. So just give 2 points, name each point first. So name in each one feature from Lottobon's 4C's, and make sure you link to Malika's situation. So when you're answering, engage with the STEM. Explain exactly how these features apply to Malika selling flowers to younger customers. Use those wording in your answer while writing. So one is, we know Lottobon recommends we should focus on the wants and needs of customers when it comes to younger customers. They are very environmentally conscious, so she could suggest that her products have environment friendly packing, or they like a variety of colors, attractive packaging, because again they are young, so they like to see something vibrant. So because she's targeting younger customers here, she could focus on typical wants and needs of the younger generation. So just see how my examples are extremely relevant to younger people, and make sure you write something of this sort. Secondly, she can try to improve communication. Communication is one of the 4C's, and Lottobon clearly recommends that there should always be two-way communication between sellers and customers, not one way. It should not be only the seller is talking to the customer. So in Malika's case, social media could be involved because youngsters are a lot on social media. So she could start a campaign where she tells them to upload photographs of themselves with her flowers on the social media accounts, and she could offer them some perks for doing that. So that will likely increase sales. Then they've asked for a weakness. This is an EU3 question. So we'll name a weakness and we'll link it. The most common mistake, to give a generic point. Just naming a weakness in general, this is a problem. not linking back to Malika, or at least not linking back to 4C's model. When it comes to the 4C's model, the problem is that it overlooks the fact that sellers might not be as resourceful as the model assumes. Like, too much expectation is there from the seller, but practically for the seller to manage all those suggestions can be very difficult. For example, to say that the seller should keep on taking feedback from customers and work accordingly, arranging for that feedback and then keeping on modifying products or selling techniques according to the feedback can be very costly and time consuming. So every seller might not be able to afford that much time and cost. So it can be impractical. Explain it this way. Like, if you say that it expects too much of sellers, that's not sufficient. Which feature of it is expecting too much, and why is that a very high expectation? Explain that. If you wish to, you can also link to Malika's situation and say that in her case, she's already selling to older people. So creating a new market base by putting in so much time and effort into catering to younger people might not be practical if she doesn't have those type of resources, like that much manpower and that much of a budget. Then the 6 and 10 marker, which I've discussed in a lot of details in my previous videos, so we'll just go over them quickly and revise the main rules that we follow while writing these answers. This time a case study was given, Robson et al. Robson et al. Firstly bring to mind which is the study. Students confuse a lot between various consumer studies. So Hall et al., Robson et al., everything is same in their mind. Robson is the table spacing study they have mentioned here as such. So we just need to summarize it. When it comes to key studies, the summary must include aim, participants, methodology, procedure, results with numerical values, or if it's a qualitative study with descriptive information, and conclusion. So all of that is included in my summary with a lot of explicit detail. It is the Robson study, the key study, so you can see some things I'll just point out. I have mentioned exactly what the IV and the levels were. If it was a summary study, I might have not even used the word IV, or I would have not even explicitly written what the IV was. Like, if I was summarizing Otti and Lewis, I might not even mention that they are manipulating the type of video clip shown to the children. But here I have to mention the IV, not only that, with its exact levels. Like the first IV, table spacing. Exactly what were the table spacings? 6, 12, and 24 inches. I have to specify that because it's a key study. That is the level of explicit detail I need to give. I get a lot of feedback from students that my teacher is telling me we don't need to give this much explicit detail, or in the mark scheme as such they've not mentioned that you have to give detail about this also, that also. See, if you engage in needless arguing, you are losing your marks. I have nothing to lose in that. So if it's coming to your mind that you don't want to write these details, don't write them. But then when you lose marks, then don't complain about it. My suggestion is this: I know for a fact that you have to write this way to get full marks. If it's not acceptable to you, you're willing to take a risk with your marks, that is your choice. Then after that, you can see sample also, exact number of participants I have given. Again, if it was a summary study, I might not even mention the sample size, but here I have specified. It is an independent measures design. How many groups are there, how they have been created in all permutations of the two IVs, I have explained. So lot of methodological coverage, sample, aim, everything is here. In the results, you can see I have explained in which condition they were very distressed. The conditions, the spacings as such are numerical, but their expressions, what they were feeling, are descriptive. So both I have mentioned. For example, in 6 inches, they were very uncomfortable for two reasons. They felt their privacy would get invaded and they might disrupt others. So they might be out of control. So that I have mentioned. At 12 inches, they were a little more comfortable. They felt most in control, but 24 inches was still preferable. Like more the space, more the comfort level. All those things I have given. So all three levels of the chief IV, which was the table spacing, what were the standing or the findings on all of them I've explained. And then because there was this one more IV whom they are dining with, what was the standing on that? I have explained that also, that in romantic situations particularly, people wanted more spacing. One more thing that comes to mind is there's so many demographics that have been considered. It's not possible to summarize everything in 6 markers. We do have to know about the result for every demographic, but that is more for paper 4, where they could ask an explicit question about any of them. But here at least we mention that, even if we can't elaborate on all. So you can see definitely I have mentioned that demographics like age, gender, rural or urban background, for example, that also had an influence on table spacing preferences. So at least we can note that, though we can't elaborate that much for a 6 marker. Again, what word count should be there for a 6 marker, how to arrange it on the paper and all, I have covered in some of my previous videos. You can also purchase essay packs that I keep releasing from time to time. In that you can see lots of examples of essays of different topics that I have written, and you can try to refine your answers accordingly. Also, I had released a solution of some past papers in which I have given my commentary also. So in those comments, I have mentioned what should be the word count, how you should organize and all. So you could purchase those type of solved past papers as well. Okay, now coming to the 10 marker. So, of course, the 10 marker is going to be from the same topic as the 6 marker, in this case, Robson et al. Study. When it comes to case studies, it's not only about issues, we can take any methodological or ethical strengths and weaknesses as well. So, here it's no surprise that the named issue was self report, a methodological issue. My very strong recommendation to go on the high mark band would be, because there are not like two topics that you can keep on engaging in every issue when there's one case study. Try to give points and counterpoints. Try to show both sides of the spectrum so that you can reach higher levels of analysis like level 5. So, whatever methodological ethical issues or issues and debates you take for a case study, try to represent points as well as counterpoints for those to go for a higher level. Not compulsory to take points and counterpoints for literally every evaluation point that you're taking, but as much as possible, just imbibe that into your answer. So, for example, where they've taken self report, the strength of it, definitely we want to know about a lot of psychological factors in their experience when they're looking at the different dining spaces. For example, we want to know emotionally, would they be comfortable? Would they experience a sense of privacy or not? These are feelings, these are perceptions. Cannot be directly observed, can only be indirectly observed through behavior, and then we might make biased judgments. So, the best thing is to take self report in this case, which is what is done in the study. So, it's a very suitable method given the nature of the dependent variable being assessed, and that is a strength. Not only that, the use of a very well established validated skill to derive the questions for this study, which was the stress arousal checklist, using that again is a strength. But for a counter, when we use self reports, we know that there can be social desirability or memory distortion. In this case, because the situations they're imagining are hypothetical, they're not really there in those situations. So they might end up giving inflated answers, like suggesting more comfort and more privacy than they would actually feel if they were in a very cramped situation, like a 6-inch place. So, for the good of self report, the good side, I have mentioned how it helps to tap into people's implicit processes. But on the downside, how it prevents people from answering honestly. That also I have mentioned. Okay, also keep noting, like I told you, you can just pause the video at any time, read the answer. Keep noting how in every point there is context as well as reasoning that I have given. I have not written general points. If I have mentioned that perceptual experiences are being measured, exactly what are those perceptual experiences I have given? In the same way, if I have said that self report might not lead to honest answers, exactly why it would not lead to honest answers, what is the context for which I'm saying that, and why I'm saying that, I have explained. Same thing I have done for the remaining two issues that I've taken. Today I don't have time to go over the full answer, so I have to stop the video here. You can read the answer and you'll find the arrangement is same as I have explained for the first paragraph. So that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. The next video will be on section C, health psychology solution for the same paper. I'll see you in that one. Goodbye.